just completed the first of two Think Summits for 2025. The theme was access to care. These are intranet gatherings, and in this case, leaders came from across Ontario's healthcare continuum to explore fresh, actionable ideas on how to narrow the divide between treatment demand and care capacity. These events this year would not be possible without PEDAL's support, and we are genuinely grateful. Why access to care? Because it's a wicked problem that impacts all Canadians. Many of the elements needed to address it are already on the table, but we all know it might not be enough. So we came together in an attempt to think through a kind of audacious idea. What would it take to actually flip the curve? The format is simple but effective, 3 short videos that are fairly provocative, each one followed by facilitated group discussion, and wrap up the day with an attempt to surface actionable ideas. The briefings are really meant to reframe the challenge through a fresh lens, not because there's a clear answer, but because fresh thinking doesn't come from entrenched ideas. It comes from adjacents. And sometimes a fresh perspective sparks the sort of discussions that are needed to help generate that aha moment. And that's what we were looking for. All the briefs and all the artifacts from both Think Summits will be made available under this Creative Commons license so that they can be shared widely. Before we jump into the brief, maybe a bit of context is in order, because we have a bias. At Rampworth, we work with leadership teams to try to figure out what are the emerging risks and opportunities, and how do you actually work your way through that. To hone our thinking, we have a formal force map and a formal thesis, and we monitor disruptive forces, and we refresh all this regularly. So we have this bias towards first principles thinking and towards envisioning what great looks like and going on an execution path to try to achieve it. These briefings are informed by that, but they're also biased by that. And, spoiler alert, each of these briefings has a minimum of 3 first principles buried in them. See if you can spot them. With that, let's get on to the brief. It's a thesis, really. It's our thesis. This whole brief is based on our thesis of what Canadian healthcare systems can expect to achieve between now and 2030. We assumed a goal of caring for more people without adding more cost. And in our view, there are 6 foundational forces that are going to shape how this unfolds. It's based on a pretty simple premise. The curve is looking unstoppable. Healthcare costs keep going up, access to care keeps going down, and everybody wants to flip that. Well, let's actually flip it right on its side. Healthcare systems, which we view as an ecosystem of care delivery resources, they have a mandate to ensure that people have access to care. They don't have a mandate to deliver care. We think that between now and 2030, the gap is going to keep widening. Their ability to ensure access to care is going to get worse, not better. From a system point of view, there are really only 2 levers that can be pulled to help address this gap. Capacity. There's really 3 big things you can do there. One is add capacity, and Lord knows Ontario's healthcare system is making a massive investment to do just that. But is it going to solve the access to care challenge? It's not clear. Burnout is real. Churn rates are high. And training and recruiting and onboarding healthcare professionals takes a very long time. What about removing inefficiencies? This gets a lot of attention. But the thing is, it's not up to healthcare systems to deliver care. It's up to the care delivery organizations themselves. And they're constantly trying to squeeze more capacity, automating, reducing administrative burden. So this is really the goal more of the care delivery units than it is of a health system. Health system can support it, but they're not the primary driver. Reducing clinical burden, that's another matter. This is an area where care delivery organizations and health systems can and will make efforts to reduce clinical burden on doctors, because it's a huge driver of burnout and churn. And done well, this helps reduce burnout, which will help reduce churn, which will ultimately increase capacity. So yeah, really important driver. Then there's demand. The other lever that health systems can use to help close the gap is to reduce the need for treatment. This is tough for healthcare systems, though, because healthcare is treatment focused. Reducing demand for treatment requires an end-to-end approach. If we wait until someone's in treatment, it's already too late. We need to actually influence behaviors before treatment is needed and after treatment to prevent having to come back into the system. However, doing this is going to require a significant shift in how we allocate funds, because if we don't spend any money on trying to prevent demand, then we're not going to get it. There's a lot that can be done to reduce the need for treatment, but it mostly falls outside the boundaries of the healthcare system. Still, the ONC in the US is pushing hard to embrace prevention for exactly this reason. And there's numerous preventive initiatives underway in Ontario too. Although, interestingly, prevention is so small that there isn't even a reliable measure of how much is spent on it. Wait, what about this AI thing? I thought that was going to solve everything. Well, sure, it's going to make a huge impact. There's all kinds of AI experiments taking place across the healthcare landscape, but really, truly harnessing the potential of AI in healthcare at scale is going to require rethinking things through a Gen AI lens. We find it helpful to think in 4 layers. AI is going to make an impact at the user experience layer, removing friction across all these traditional systems, and at the job layer, actually automating and getting things done. But if you want to use AI to get things done, you actually have to rethink the data and interoperability layer, which is a massive challenge. Then there's the final one, which is ecosystem wide, because there's a massive amount that AI can do to optimize across systems. This is actually perhaps the most interesting one for healthcare systems. At a high level, for clinicians, we can expect reduced clinical and administrative burden from better user experience, better AI scribes to reduce the burden of putting stuff into the healthcare system, AI summaries to try to get things out of the healthcare system, and automating some jobs, and then, maybe one day helping improve outcomes as well. For humans, the real opportunity with AI is to reduce treatment demand. Trustworthy information would have a massive impact on people's behaviors. Personal health companions may be the single biggest opportunity that health systems have to reduce demand. And then again, how about proactive interventions, highly personalized, reducing the need for treatment? So yeah, potential is huge. And if you really look at our thesis, it kind of looks like this. The gap's going to continue to widen. There's really only 2 levers that health systems can pull, and they need to take an end-to-end view to try to close the supply-demand gap. But there's some challenges with that. First of all, this will require a net new stack. It's really compelling to imagine AI automating tasks and fixing the UX with some sort of fancy conversational interface. But the truth is, that requires an entirely new stack of infrastructure and entirely new capabilities and training. And that's a massive undertaking. This is not a simple add-on to legacy systems. You need your traditional healthcare clinical grade stack, and you need a brand new stack, which is also clinical grade. To harness AI's full potential in healthcare requires a significant commitment and investment in time and money to develop this infrastructure and the processes and the capabilities. For us, that distilled down to 10 individual forces, but the point is, this is not trivial. Challenge number 2, and this is counterintuitive, efficiency does not equal access to care. Sure, a lot's going to be done to reduce clinical burden and automate low-value tasks, but that doesn't instantly lead to improved access to care. You don't actually control how that extra time gets used. It may free up time. That may lead to more care capacity units. Those won't help if they go to waste, because care capacity is the only unit that means anything when satisfying demand. Here's the way we think about this. People need to solve a whole range of health jobs at any given time. Many, many, many different jobs that they are asking the health system to solve for them. The health system has all sorts of capacity to do that, but breaks into tiny little units, which we call care capacity units. And care capacity units are distributed across the health organization, and they vary by location and time and so on. In reality, the health system's care capacity also varies by the health job itself. But here's the thing, care capacity units are perishable. They expire if they're not used. That's critical. So when you take a system-wide view, health systems support this across an ecosystem with a wide range of capabilities. They don't actually do the care delivery, but they provide things like a federated identity, the ability to authenticate and stay compliant, attribution and reputation. All of these things are system-wide capabilities that the health systems provide to the care delivery units. Well, if you reframe that as platform jobs, what you come to see is that all of these are common across all digital platforms. What most health systems do not provide is a system-wide matchmaking capability. And it's really a health system job because individual care delivery organizations can't do it unless they have system-wide visibility into all the care capacity units by health job. There's no way to do it without that. And that's beyond the scope of individual care delivery organizations. Digital platforms have advanced significantly in the last decade, and they're all based on recommendation engines. The matchmaking engines that they use now all predict demand, and then they balance the pool of solutions against what they see coming. This is literally the foundation of all modern platforms. Challenge number 3, the treatment lens. Healthcare is primarily treatment focused. That's okay. There's lots of episodic and longitudinal data that helps us deliver fantastic care. Problem is, preventing the need for treatment, reducing demand, requires prediction. And that requires data that lives outside the healthcare system. It's not traditional personal health information. It's contextual information. It's things from an AI health coach. It's things from your nutritionist. It's genome, it's omics, it's sensors. And so all of these things are actually required to predict and prevent demand. A patient view is needed because it extends from end to end. And that's the only way to get visibility into learning and behavior. And that matters because prevention requires visibility into behavior and outcomes. So an end-to-end view is critical to reduce demand on the system. Challenge number 4, doing that kind of prediction requires entirely new capabilities. We talked about this before. Generative AI has this potential role to play a massive impact because of its ability to do prediction, and that's going to help health systems close the supply-demand gap. But AI-powered recommendation engines require contextual information, and the only way they can use that is if they have a net new set of infrastructure and new capabilities inside the healthcare system. In other words, it all circles back to challenge 1. This requires a net new stack. Well, that's it. Huge potential, but significant challenges. Thank you for your time. At this point in a live event, we move to discussion. And if you're going to reflect back on these, I'm going to suggest you think of the same things that the group did. What concepts in here resonated for you and why? What was talked about in here that gives you heartburn and why? What's already going on in healthcare in Canada or elsewhere along these lines, and what's good about it and what's bad about it? What are the headwinds? What are the tailwinds? At the event, there was a huge poster of Steve Jobs in the lobby. So I referred to that because Steve was a remarkable guy. He led an organization that has created transformative innovation over and over again. He was also famous for living in a reality distortion field. And so we encouraged the group to kind of put on their inner Steve Jobs, live in a reality distortion field for a moment. Think of the first principles that are at play here, because if you're only responding to the facts in front of you and not going back to first principles, the likelihood of getting the strategy right is near zero. So what first principles stood out for you in this briefing? I'll give you a hint. 1 is care capacity units are perishable. The aha is if you don't have a system-wide measure, how are you going to see what's being used and what's not? Then we broke into groups and had all sorts of discussion, and I'd encourage you to do the same with your colleagues. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.